welcome to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about a significant severe weather sequence that's going to be affecting a lot of parts of the United States. We have 6 days in the SPC's day 4 through 8 marked with marked with a slight risk right now, some of which will probably go enhanced at some point. Currently, you are looking at the radar from Macon, Georgia, and we have a severe warning kind of near Macon that could be bringing hail and wind with it. In the Charleston area, we have a supercell there that could bring a threat with it. And if we go a little bit further out, we can see multiple other supercells with some isolated anticyclonic rotation and cyclonic rotation with this storm. Then as we move out to Columbia, we have another severe thunderstorm warning just north of Augusta, South Carolina. Now let's traverse over to our Google Chrome, and we're going to take a look at the Weather Prediction Center site. So today we're expecting severe weather across portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and it's already actually occurred. We've had pretty significant event in Orlando with 2+ inch hail being dropped. Tomorrow, a wide corridor of severe weather is expected from Oklahoma and Texas all the way down to Louisiana and Mississippi. A few tornadoes are going to be possible, mostly in Louisiana and Mississippi. Scattered damaging wind gusts and scattered large hail as well. Day 3, a couple to potentially a few tornadoes, maybe a stronger one. Scattered damaging wind gusts and isolated large hail are going to be possible. And then once we kind of get into our front map, severe weather will likely fire up around 0Z along the Red River and areas just to the north along a low pressure system. Then as we traverse through the night, it's expected to kind of progress southeastward, and then more of a significant area is possible kind of in Louisiana here at 12Z. This will likely be severe anywhere in that area. At 0Z on Saturday, we will likely have isolated severe thunderstorms ongoing in Alabama along warm front, cold front kind of interaction region in here. Could see isolated stronger storms ongoing in this area as well into Florida, Georgia, and maybe even isolated stronger storms up into places like Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee as well. Saturday, isolated severe weather is possible in the afternoon and evening hours across portions of Florida all the way up into Virginia. The main risk area, though, will be areas kind of highlighted in this blue color, mainly going to be more in here, across the Carolinas there. As we move into Sunday, no severe weather is expected really anywhere except maybe Texas. Probably marginal to slight environment kind of sets up in here really early in the morning, which may bring isolated severe storms. Monday, a pretty big severe weather event is expected from areas like Del Rio all the way into Louisiana, Oklahoma, maybe Arkansas. And then Tuesday, another severe weather event is expected from areas like Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, maybe Alabama as well, Florida Panhandle. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. And Wednesday, another area of severe weather is possible. Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. So those are going to be the areas to watch next week. With this, very heavy rainfall is expected for places like Illinois, Colorado, which some of that will probably be snow there, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. Areas like that are likely going to see high rain amounts in Iowa as well, in the Florida Panhandle. Currently, there are no excessive rain outlooks placed. Now, going over to the Storm Prediction Center side of things, we have a severe watch up currently across portions of Florida. A tornado or two, isolated very large hail, and isolated damaging wind gusts are all possible. Now, that threat is likely winding down. Okay, today's outlook. 2% tornado risk, 15 wind, and 15 sig hail. SPC placed that sig hail perfectly as we had significant hail across portions of Florida there. Day 2, Scattered severe storms, as we said just a little bit ago, are expected. Main tornado risk is going to mainly stick to places like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Gulfport, Mississippi, kind of that area. A couple areas of damaging wind gusts are possible, including areas in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Oklahoma as well. That's where surface-based convection is possible. Don't be too surprised if we see a two-tour added along with that 15% wind risk area. It's possible, but probably will not happen. Now, on to the hail risk. We have a large 15% hail risk that is expected from Oklahoma all the way into Mississippi, Louisiana. In discussion, it says a few tornadoes are possible. Large hail and damaging wind gusts are also possible. Day 3. A large area of severe weather is expected, or is a possibility on day 3, all the way from the Ohio-Pennsylvania border down into the Mississippi River Valley, and then back out to the Mississippi River Delta, and then into the Carolinas. Pretty complex setup. This northern ring here is probably going to be more cold core. This is probably going to be there's going to be multiple rounds across Dixie, and the Carolinas is going to be most likely overnight. Day 4, severe weather is expected across extreme southern Virginia, portions of North Carolina, and portions of South Carolina as well. Day 6, severe weather is expected across southern Oklahoma. A lot of East Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas are also included in this. Day 7, severe weather is expected across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. You can see here a lot of these same places are being repeated. In day 7 and in day 8, there's potential for severe weather across Dixie Alley as well, and probabilities will likely be added later on. In the discussion, intense severe weather is possible on Monday with very large hail and tornadoes expected. On day 7, tornadoes, wind, and hail are all expected. Let's go look at the wrap. We're going to look at the Hodograph Map. So here is the Hodograph Map. Right around 23:00, we'll probably start to see this low pressure kind of start kicking up. That's where your low pressure is placed. More favorable hodographs lie kind of in here. The more capped environment kind of lies down here. The more bad kind of kinematic environment lies up here. So your main risk area for any tornadic activity, if the storms aren't elevated, is going to be southern Oklahoma along the Red River, maybe northern Texas too. Let's take a sounding there. Here's kind of a sounding in that area. It's a little bit contaminated, but looks like large to potentially very large hail is a possibility. With a deep layer shear of 50 knots, very steep lapse rates as well, which will give the possibility. Now it's a little bit dry, but you can still get large to very large hail in an environment like this. Strong D-cape will resemble a damaging wind threat, and I think these TD spreads are favorable for tornadic activity, except it's crossing the line of being elevated with that kind of blue dotted line right there. Hodograph overall is pretty solid. As we get a little bit later at night, we're going to see pretty big hodographs. I do think some potential for splitting storms is possible tomorrow due to the veer back fear that we have, and this is when the capping inversion really starts to go in. I mean, the veer back fear isn't that bad, but there's potential for some of that. But this is not a great sounding given the huge capping inversion in the low levels. Pretty good hail wind sounding though, not really a tornado sounding like the hazard type suggests. As we go overnight, maybe some tornado risk in Texas there. Probably not. Let me just take a look at this real quickly. Yeah, that wouldn't do anything. It's elevated. Now here's when Louisiana starts to become a tornado risk. This is not elevated, and that is a pretty solid environment there. Around 10Z, we start to see some supercell convection kind of move on shore, most likely. This will probably result in mainly a tornado threat. Maybe isolated hail and maybe isolated wind gusts too, but look at the hodograph there. Pretty strong. Lower level instability is not great, but you have 2000 mixed layer cape almost, and looks like your temperature to dew point's kind of saturated right there. I think it's going to be a little bit higher with the temperature, but we'll have to see. Kind of moving on here. Deep layer shears 44 knots, not bad. Helicity in the low levels, or in the effective layers 300, which is pretty solid. Your profile, it is veered with the 1 to 6 kilometer barb. Your 1 kilometer barb is kind of, your 6 kilometer barb is kind of that, and your 1 kilometer barb is that. They're veered, so you think you're going to have supercell development. This is going to be more along the warm front. Or, yeah, kind of a warm front there. Once we get to 12Z, it looks like there's going to be a lot more instability advected onshore at the surface regime there. And yeah, that's kind of past the better low-level thermal or kinematics. Sorry, I'm getting my terms mixed up. But once we take a sounding there, kind of along the Mississippi-Louisiana border, you can see here very saturated profile in the low levels again, but kind of that better kinematic environment lies there. Mixed layer cape overall looks to be probably 2000 at some points, and it's going to keep advecting onshore. And we'll probably see a pretty nice hail risk across Louisiana and Mississippi with any isolated convection that does try to form. And we'll switch over to Florida 2 now, so that'll be more favorable. And yeah, this is not great for tornadoes, but that will get the job done for hail. And if we look at the Hodograph map, we can see here the better hodographs are going to be out here where there's not as good instability values. So that's what will probably limit the tornado risk some. Now, once we get later at night, these hodographs start to straighten out more, and they start to become a little bit more curved in the low levels as well, which will result in some potential for tornadoes. And this is definitely favorable for large to maybe very large hail, given the very strong lapse rates that we have, and the good deep layer shear. That would support a nice damaging wind risk as well. Look a little bit further north where you have a little bit more enlarged hodographs. You can see here again, very straight hodographs, very hail indicative, and wind as well. Maybe some tornadic potential if you can get those to turn a little bit more locally. Now 15Z will probably see a severe risk kind of lying out in western Alabama there, with that kind of attended tornado risk along the warm front. And yeah, there you go again. Pretty easily a 5% tornado risk will probably be issued with that. Probably a widespread 15 wind, 15 hail type situation. We can take a sounding as well at 0Z when that low level jet kind of heightens up there. And kind of just get a general look at that. That's not bad. But as we get into the NAM model, we're going to go look at the southeast floater with this. Let's go look at the kind of overall precipitation type here. So here we go with the NAM. We can see here's our convection kind of evolving up upshore. And then let's go into the Carolinas risk. Let me kind of exit out there. Some severe weather is possible across the Carolinas on Saturday. With this kind of attendant convection here, we cannot rule out isolated to scattered severe weather. And there's your hodograph. Now, something I did forget to mention is that severe weather is also possible on Friday in areas like Kentucky, Illinois, Ohio. If we take a sounding there, kind of just along that band of convection, you can see here there is some tornadic potential with this. Not likely though, more likely a wind and hail threat. Now if this sounding would actually appear in that area, you would have a isolated tornado risk, nothing significant though. You can see kind of the NAM kind of convecting over here. And you kind of look at the mixed layer cape, and we have a lot of it. There's a lot of it in store. It's just kind of, if we have strong enough convection to get severe weather right now, it's kind of like my main concern. This is definitely favorable for damaging wind, hail, and tornadoes. It's just, will we have enough? I think I just exited out of something. Maybe the GFS. No. I don't know. But let's look at the NAM 3 kilometer. We're gonna look at this for Friday because it goes out that far. It has more of a interesting solution. Reflectivity wise, I tend to not usually use the NAM reflectivity. But we're just gonna use it to get a general basis. Looks like your supercell risk fires up, moves eastward, and then a new area of supercells develops kind of in Alabama there. Ahead of it, let's go somewhere where we don't have contaminated soundings. Right here. You see here we have a very enlarged hodograph on the NAM. Very dry instability profile though. That's the thing about that. It's not that great. Lapse rates are pretty good though. Moving on, let's kind of look at the GEFS really quickly here. Here's the mean instability for the next few days. So tomorrow we have 1,000 Cape mean across Louisiana, 1,000 surface mean, 1,000 surface mean again. And then we kind of move on with that Carolina system. The mean's not great yet. We already have 1,000 joules per kilogram mean, actually 1,500. And then for the Dixie day, we have another 1,000 mean. So you can kind of look at the euro as well, and we can just look at the 500 millibar wind energy on the GFS, and we're gonna kind of stop this here on Monday, and you can just see the system is nuts. Huge bowling ball low pressure system with very strong flow across the plains there, ripping a 40 to 70 knots it is. No, 50 to 70 knots across the region. It's a little bit stronger at 18Z, but we don't have that much confidence kind of yet. You can see here another, with the streamlines here, you can kind of see the direction the wind's kind of coming from. It gets really strong there. And your 850s are really strong too, 40 plus knots. Along with that, you have a good amount of dew points that get evicted. On average, we get 60s evicted all the way kind of in that region with the blue. High 60s are very well possible kind of in this region in southeast Texas, maybe a little bit further southeastward depending upon how far west we get that moisture to go. If we look at the euro mean, let's just stop it at 126. It has the event more west, has very vigorous dew points still though, upper 60s here, big time. Looking at the trough, it is still very organized, not as organized as the GFS since it digs just a tad bit further south. Still very organized though. All members have a very organized low pressure wherever it kind of tends to organize here. GFS, they both have it in a very similar spot. GFS is slightly further north though. But yeah. Kind of looking at the individual solutions. Here's the euro. I'm going to quickly go into this here. The euro shows pretty big time area low pressure kind of form there. And we move up here northeastward, kind of weakens throughout the day. Overall, looking at 500 millibar, just really solid. 850 is really solid too. A couple concerns I do have is potential for an EML, kind of making it so storms will have a little bit of difficulty forming at some points as the euro has a very strong EML. If we do take a look at the GFS and we stop it there at 21Z. GFS does not have as strong of an EML as the euro does, so that is something to kind of work out. It has the system moving a lot faster too, and being a lot further north, which I think it's going to be north, but I don't think it's going to be so fast like the GFS. Again, looking at overall the instability, mixed layer CAPE is going to be in excess of 1,000 joules per kilogram across the region. And across the euro as well, it gets pretty strong. GFS again, looking at the 500 millibar, it's very strong across the region. And the dew points are strong as well. We're probably going to see significant severe weather on both of these days here. GFS goes nuts with 70, 60 dew points as well for the next day. Euro does not have much instability for Tuesday, which is probably limiting it. Plus, it has a weaker load than the GFS, which is something to monitor, but I think is unlikely right now. Here's the UK Met. It's pretty similar to the Euro, but with placement-wise, it's a little bit further east though, probably. As we move along here, it has a lot more moisture being evicted and a low further north. So I think the GFS solution is probably more reliable. You can see very strong 850 millibar winds. Let's take a sounding in there. Huge hodographs. 850 millibar winds for both days look nuts, and we probably will see a 50 or 30% risk added for these days in the upcoming outlooks as well. I will probably have a more detailed update than that for the later days once we get past kind of Friday. Um, because right now these are a little bit further out, so it's a little bit harder to get details in, but that will do it.